Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. I have with me for the first time in the program, Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker is the liaison officer and development. So you're the Caribbean development and liaison officer for Spectrum Airways, right? Yeah. So a lot there, man. So how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show. Good day or good evening to the TV and radio listeners. I am here in the capacity of the liaison officer because myself, I have two sons that are pilots, and because of the journey that we had on how to finance and get them through the complete training and until they are working, it was, let me say, something that was a burden for me, for other families. And after they graduated, and even before they graduated, I started talks with the school to see how it would be possible for the youngsters from the Caribbean to be able to get a more affordable, paced way to become commercial pilots. And out of this has been an initiative that we call Opportunity to the Skies. And the Opportunity to the Skies is something catered for students from the Caribbean because there's no flight school facilities on these small islands, and it's catered specially towards Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, if there's any other islands that want to jump on board, we will not refuse them. But seeing that I have the contacts on these islands, and you can say I'm practically from, or have family ties, and everyone have family ties to these islands, it's easier for us to put together something specially for these islands. So because of that, I'm busy trying to get the word out there so that people know. In words, they say knowledge is power. If you don't have the knowledge that this opportunity is here for you, then you wouldn't be able to assist or even grab the opportunity to get the training, etc.
I want to jump back a little bit so my audience get a better understanding of Spectrum Airways flight school.
Yes.
Now, you have two sons that are now pilots, right?
Yes, they're both flying for Wingrove.
Now, how did they get to know about this flight school?
Back in 2017, my eldest son was in the fifth form. And part of being in the fifth form is you need to prepare for tertiary education. You need to prepare and look for a college that you would have to go to. And we did the research. Him and I, his mom, and looking through the schools, there's a lot of schools in the US, there's a lot of schools in Europe, but Canada was very, I would say, appealing to us because one of the amount of different weather changes that you have. So when you're studying, you fly under different weather conditions. Number two, the price. We on Sabre use the US dollar. So for the US, I have more purchasing power with my US dollar than I would have in the United States, because in the States it's 1-to-1. And the school was, at that point in time, one of the top rated schools and it still is. And also the school to get funding. When we was looking on ways to get funding, we needed to send up the credentials from the school to Norfolk in Holland to be accredited, so to see if the curriculum from the school is accredited, etc. And once we got the results back and it showed that the school was an accredited school for teaching commercial license, we went up, myself and my father-in-law, we went up and we visited the school.
Well, the school exists for 40 years now.
Yes, the schools, it really started out as an aero club back in the 60s. And the original owners then handed it over in the 80s to their children, and they started the school. The school has about, you can say it's 3 different entities. It's the school, it's also the Aero Club, and they're one of the Cessna certified repair and service centers in Canada. So they do all the repairs and everything to their own planes. So it's a holistic, you can say, view of the aviation world. The only thing that they didn't have at the school at that time was housing. Okay. And that is one of the things that has come aboard now at their second location, that they're putting in student housing, and that would be specially to accommodate international students and students from the Caribbean.
So now, so you said you and your father-in-law went up to the school?
We went up to the school. My father-in-law, George Wilson, we went up to the school. We visited the school, spoke with the instructors, got a tour of the school, got an understanding of how they do it. And this is where I know if people go onto their site, spectrumairways.ca, you would see them talking about advanced commercial license. The advanced commercial license is an all-inclusive. So when you're done, you start from zero. Yeah. And you go your PPL, which is your private pilot license, you get your night rating, you get your instruments ratings, and also your multi-engine rating and your commercial license.
All of that you get?
All of that they get in that advanced commercial license. The only thing is it's a paced program. So you start today. On average, in 2 years, you should, because they put 2 years because that's what the average student takes to finish that program. Most of the times they used to have programs, but the programs are more self-paced. So you learn at your own tempo. But after sitting down with them and explaining them, listen, our youth, and they experience that with my sons also, our youth here have always been in paced programs. So when you go to the Marvel, you go to the high school, even if you're doing the MAC or Sabre Comprehensive School, there's a certain set of subject matter that you have to know by time the end of the term. And that's a paced program. So it's set up that X amount of material you need to study, X amount of stuff you need to know for the exam. So it's a paced program where you start at this time and you're supposed to end at that time, which is 2 years. And that's why it's called the advanced, because not everyone is accustomed to being or studying in a paced program. Some people go to school where it's self-paced, and some people take 3-4 years to finish it. Some people take less. And this is why we know what it entails when it comes to financially. You have to pay for housing, you have to be up there, you have to take care of yourself. So the longer you stay up there, the more money is invested. So they we did a study, the school did a study, and they saw that the average student takes 2 years. So some take a bit more, some take a bit less, but it average out about 2 years. So that's why they set up this package, this program, so that it can you can go up, and in 2 years you're supposed to be finished with your commercial license.
So Spectrum Airways flight training school, right?
Yeah.
Your two sons went there.
Both, yes.
And they are now commercial pilots for Winnair.
Yeah, they're commercial pilots for Winnair working as first officers. I think they should be very close to making a year if they haven't already made a year working and flying for Winnair.
Did they fly you over today?
No, they didn't fly me over today, but I have flew with them on numerous occasions. Yeah.
Now, did they do all of their training at Spectrum Airways?
Yes. None of my sons had any type of experience flying when they went to school in Canada. My first son went up in September of 2018, and he would have finished in 2020. But because of COVID and different other circumstances, he finished in 2022. Because of lockdowns, you know, and lockdowns, people weren't allowed from different households to be together, so he couldn't fly because the instructors from a different household, and they had different other things that you have to hold reckoning with, and certain things didn't go as we planned it, because when we went up, we were really walking in the dark looking at certain things. But because of the experience of having to educate my two sons, we learned from the experiences, and we fixed certain things with my second son, who went up in 2019. And there's also two other young boys who are not young boys, young men, who also have left Sabre this year in June, and mistakes that we made with, or things that we didn't know of, that were setbacks for my sons. Now, in that whole stream of things, we corrected that for them. So there's two that are presently, again from Sabre, that is studying there right now. And on the 10th of September, I'll be leaving to carry up another one to study. So in the grand scheme of things, I think we have this lockdown to as efficient and as effective as we can get it, in order to provide a streamlined pathway for students to become aviators.
I guess a lot of people don't realize that there's a shortage of commercial pilots right now, and I think once you're 65, you can't fly commercial anymore. I love flying, so I can tell you, but I had an accident with my eyes, so I could never become a pilot. The thing is that it is a beautiful thing that you have two boys that are flying for Winnair. Yeah. And I hope they really enjoy it. I think Winnair is my favorite airline too.
Let me put it this way: those boys are living their dream, because what I think is very few people in life get to work a job that's also their hobby, and that is really the drive for me to push for other youths to be able to do that, because I've seen the contentment, the love for their job. They love flying. If it wasn't because of civil aviation restrictions that you're only allowed to fly a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of time, I think they would live at the airport. because they love planes, they love flying so much, and yeah, they're still young, and I wish them well, and I wish the company also well, because it's a company that when I used to go school in Curacao, they were the only company that would come to Sabre and take us out and make sure we catch either ALM or DAA or one of those numerous airlines that used to exist in Curacao, and so that we can get down to school. And it's like it gives me an extra proud feeling to know that our national carrier, because I look at it as a national carrier, because I knew all my life, I've traveled with Winair, coming from Sabre and going to Sabre and going back to Sabre, and it's been an icon in the aviation industry here. So it's a very proud feeling to know that both my sons are flying for the airline, and that the airline is now even expanding and going into new areas, and I wish that the company well. And knowing that pilots are being sought all over the world, there's also the risk that pilots from other nationalities that work for Winair would go and look for greener pastures, because let's be honest, Winair would not be able to compete with salaries from a legacy airline like American Airlines, Delta. So at a certain point in time, there must be a pool of young officers that are just starting out that would start at lower salary scales, etc. So I think not only for Winair, but all the other airlines, they would need to have a pool of locals. And I think the locals would give them more stability, and they wouldn't have such a high rate of turnover when it comes to pilots.
Well, when you're local, you're not treated too well in this part of the world also, but that's another story. But I have very fond memories of Winair. As a little boy flying on school trips from Simran to Sabre and Statia, flying with two twin otters at the same time, wing to wing. It's a great experience. And Winair has one of the best safety records in the airline business. And Mr. Michael Cleaver was there. He did a beautiful job. I hope that continue with the airline. But when you look at Spectrum Airways Training School, I noticed they're very open. They have their prices listed up front, so there's nothing to hide. No. I think that's important.
The thing is, the school is a family-based school. When I say family-based, it's not only family-owned, but family-based. And when I say family-based, my son was up there for school. He was up there by himself the first year, and they knew he was making birthday. And it was a day that he was off. He didn't have to fly. He would just have to do his studies from home. So they called him in. We have a flight for you, etc., etc. When he came into the school, there was a cake and everything.
That's nice.
So even when it came to like not being homesick, etc., etc., because it's such a family-orientated, family-based school, my son just looks at that as fond memories. I could remember when certain things wasn't going as they should with the housing for my son. The instructor called me, said, listen, this and this and this is going on. We need to get this straightened out because it's affecting his studies. And that is what made me even come to the school and with a proposal on how can we do this for the Caribbean, because the social control that we have on these islands is very something that was the pinnacle of us being reared up the correct way. If you go down the road and you did something, you misbehaved, they was going to call your mom, they call your dad. By the time you reach home, they know the story already. So it's that type of atmosphere, and I think seeing my sons and the ones that are there now, I think it's and I know it's an environment in which they thrive. So that is why I really brought this plan and this proposal to Spectrum Airways.
All right. In case you've just joined us, I'm Oral. This is Oral Gives Live. My guest on the program is Mr. Wingrove Baker. He is the Caribbean Development and Liaison Officer for Spectrum Airways Flight Training School. And I'm here speaking with him on Hot 99.9 FM radio station, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, Mr. Baker, when you look at the school, what part of Canada is the school located?
Okay, the school is located in the Ontario area, the Greater Ontario area, but is located in the city of, the township of Burlington.
So it's just off the Great Lakes there then?
It's, yes, but it's more in the rural part of the area, as in the rural part. And there's also the second location is at Parry Sound Municipal Airport. So there's two locations, one in Burlington and one in Parry Sound. And the one in Parry Sound is going to officially open on the 12th of September. But they're starting flights training out of there from on the 10th. This is because that is going to be the facility where we will have the student housing. We would cater for more international students who are on a budget, who can't afford an apartment on their own, who isn't going to buy a car or going to be up and down with Uber. And that is why we have the project called Opportunity to the Skies. And it's a combination of the school fees, which is the advanced commercial pilot program. And then it's the housing. So we provide housing that would come out about 700 Canadian dollars a month.
That's a good price.
Which is roughly 500 and something US dollars. And then we have a meal plan. And the meal plan is a total of 28 Canadian dollars a day for 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So by looking at the pilot training from a holistic view, we have eliminated one of the big factors, because the 4 big factors is the training itself, the housing is number 2, food, number 3, and number 4 is transportation, because most of the schools, because of it being an airport, it's not situated in the center of town. So a lot of times you don't have public transport going to the school, and public transport is, no matter how you look at it, the cheapest way to transport. So you have to be using Uber or Lyft or taxis, and that is not a cheap form of transportation. So to practically eliminate the cost of transportation, which for my sons was roughly $150 US a week for each one of my sons. And to eliminate that, we spoke and we got housing on the airport at Parry Sound itself. And it would be a facility that would hold about 20 students. And they would have, it just would be similar to a dorms at a normal college or university, where you have your dorms, you have, maybe you share a room with someone, or you have a room by yourself, but you have common areas like common kitchen, common lounge, common how do you say, laundry facilities, those type of things. But by doing that, you walk to lessons because everything would be on the aerodrome itself, and it's walking distance from the lessons. So by that, we have eliminated practically about $600 out of transportation per month has been eliminated. $600 US has been eliminated out of that big figure. And then if you look at it, even here on St. Martin, I know on Sabre, for just a lunch, you have to pay $20. So, and $20 US. And if you want a drink, that's about $2 extra. So just lunch on Sabre is $22. And for you to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner for $21.50 US, I think that's one of the biggest gains that we can have.
That's a steal, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that is, and it's because we're not looking at how can we make money. The focus is mostly on how can we get students to get quality education, quality training, get it done in a suitable time so that they have all the qualifications. They might not have all the hours because there's only certain airlines that would take you straight out of school. And even if you go straight to an airline, the airline is still going to train you for a certain amount of time before they let you fly with their passengers, because safety comes first in the aviation industry everywhere. So, but everybody needs to start. And unless we have airlines that are willing to take on junior pilots, young pilots, the industry is never going to get pilots. So that's why we're trying to put together a pool. And we have also sent out emails to different airlines, local airlines here, airlines in Anguilla, and different other airlines, so that we can let them know, listen, this is what we're doing. We would appreciate you holding into consideration that these youngsters would like to come back to the island, and we would like you to take consideration to hiring them, because it's your local people. We also have reached out to practically every high school on Sabre, Statia, St. Martin, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, because the school is Spectrum Airways is coming with a delegation. I'm going to be part of that delegation in November, and we want to visit the schools. And I'd like to say a shout out to my friend Dino, Captain Dino Arundel. He and his lovely wife have already promised their facility for an information evening, so that when we reach out to the schools, you get kids that are, or youngsters that are still in school, but there might be people that have just graduated and want to go and don't know about this. So we want to have that evening also there, so that they can come with their parents, get some information, etc. So that would be happening there.
Will that be at his restaurant right here in Simpson Bay?
That would be at his restaurant in Simpson Bay, because we don't want it to be a tight, tie and jacket.
Open air.
Yes, open air, social. If you have questions, we can sit down with you and answer questions, etc. So, and he is someone that has always been positive within the community, especially when it comes to education. He's also a pilot. So, as soon as I spoke to him, he right away said, listen, I'm all for it. We'll work out the details, but I'm all for it. You can have the place. He said, even if I got to cancel a karaoke night or whatever, we're going to do this because this is for the youths. And I've started to reach out to financial institutions also, on the various islands and also to the governments of various islands, because this is also a way, and education is also a way to alleviate poverty. Education is also a way to get people out of or prevent them from getting into crime, etc., etc. And as a police myself, I prefer to do these type of projects and get people on a positive pathway than to have them maybe getting demotivated and sitting down alongside the streets doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, instead of doing something positive. So why I would like to reach out, or why I have reached out to some of the financial institutions, is because the same way how you can have a construction loan where someone gets a certain amount of money, they put it into their house, and then after the house is completed, etc., then you really start to do the payments. Why can't we do something like that with education? Everyone knows and that pilots are needed around the world. Why can't those who are interested in becoming pilots get some type of a loan like this, they and their parents, and then the parents would maybe make a small contribution towards paying off the interest, etc. And then once that person comes back down and starts to work, etc., they can take over the loan and pay for it. So I think if we look at it from a holistic standpoint, airlines saying yes, we're going to commit, financial institution, government helping, because I remember years ago when you used to go to school, and I went to school in Curacao, they used to have this thing that they call huisvesting toelage, where or studenten toelage, where the government would contribute a certain amount every month towards housing and food, etc., for the student. So in a case you don't have a scholarship for aviation, why isn't there money put aside in a budget to, especially that budget from poverty alleviation, where you can help educate these kids by helping them with housing and food?
Mr. Baker, I have to go to a break. When we come back, I want to continue on what you're speaking about right there, because that's very, very important, and I have some questions around that I would like to ask you, all right?
No problem.
Okay, so in case you've just joined us, or you're listening or you're watching Oral Gives Live, my guest is Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker is Caribbean Development and Liaison Officer for Spectrum Airways Training School in Canada. When we come back, we'll continue to speak with him right here on Oral Gives Live. Please stay with us.
Hey, don't guess about your insurance. Be sure that you're covered. Like with your car. Like your home. Be sure to be covered in case of a fire, flood, hurricane, or some other natural disaster. And travel insurance. Because you never know what could happen when you're on vacation. You could lose your passport, your luggage, or have an accident. So be sure that you're covered.
Insure yourself fast and easy with Be Sure from the Windward Islands Bank Limited. Visit your preferred WIB branch, WIB Insurance Services, or BeSureSt.Martin.com. Get your Be Sure insurance at the Windward Islands Bank, your partners in progress.
For real? Somebody came in here and steal my curtains? Well, it's a good thing I'm insured with Be Sure, because even the contents of my apartment are covered. Don't play guessing games with your insurance. Be sure.
Are you be sure? Be sure.
This is Oral Gives Live. My guest on the program today on Oral Gives Live is also on Hot 99.9 FM radio station, YouTube, and Facebook. Is Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker is Caribbean Development and Liaison Officer for Spectrum Airways Flight Training School in Canada, and it's good to have him here in the program. You know, when you called me, and told me about what you were doing, I can hear the passion and the excitement you have for this flight school because of your children that went there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was watching a show the other day. The cost to go to a flight school is so expensive. It's one of the reasons why many black people in America can't even get into flight schools. So I know there's one big airline in the U.S. right now, I'm not going to call their name, who have set up a flight school to accommodate black students and brown students to make it possible for them to get into the airline commercial flight business. Now, you were speaking earlier before the break about financing and so forth. That is a big issue. I saw at the school website like 62,000.
66, the APL program, ACPL, is 66,917 Canadian. And that is the grand total. That would be from zero until including commercial multi-engine instrument and multi-instrument ratings. So that would be a 2-year course, and that's the advanced commercial.
But that doesn't include housing and food and so forth.
And that is where, like I said before, I would like Sabre government. I would like again to thank the governors, the government, the Executive Council and the Island Council, because they had put together a law that is called Housing and Tuition Policy. So you don't get a scholarship for aviation if you're studying to become a pilot. If you're studying aviation management or aviation logistics management, those type of things, but to become a pilot, you don't get a scholarship. And they not only, this was not done specifically for pilots, but it was done specifically for avenues or areas where you did not get a scholarship. And it's a allotted amount of money per month. It's nothing that you can say you can pay everything with, but it's at least a help where while you're away, you get a certain amount of money for housing and a certain amount of money to help towards your tuition. And if the local other Dutch islands could have something like that, it makes this type of study more accessible to the common man. Why I say the common man? I also consider myself as a common man because I got that help from the local government for my 2 sons and more, because the government, and if every government were like, they are more education minded. Invest now in your youth so that they can be the fruit of the investment tomorrow. And I'm not only looking at government, I'm even looking at churches. I grew up in a church where people give tithes, 10% of their salary. Biblically speaking, that is to look at that money is to be used to take care of the church expenses, but it's also to help the poor, the needy, the fatherless, etc. And there's a lot of youngsters in the community that have these goals, and if the churches and non-profit organizations are out there doing the research and doing the work that they are supposed to be doing in the community, I don't see why a church can't give, even if it's a one-time grant, to youth and say, why can't they pledge, listen, Mrs. So-and-so, we know your son is going up to school, we know the housing is 700 Canadian dollars a month. Our church is pledging for the next 2 years. We would pay that money to the school for you. I must, in the same breath, say thank you to the Roman Catholic Church in Sabre, and also the Wesleyan Holiness Church in Sabre, and the Wesleyan Men's group in Sabre for contributing to 2 of the students that went up to Canada. They are in Canada now. They went and they gave. I also want to commend businesses like ICS in Sabre, CES, Envy in Sabre, Aquasab in Sabre, and also Rose's Car Rental in Sabre, who donated to those students. They know that they came from families that were less economically viable than other families, and these people, of their profits, etc., they donated towards these children. And if we look at education and training from a holistic and a community point of view, we can make this thing work, and we can help to get young children off of the street. We can help parents to put their children through the proper schooling. And let's be honest, the banking industry, why I'm going back to them is because the same people who are investing or taking the chance to help get a training, tomorrow when they come back and they have their salaries, they're the ones that still taking mortgages by you, to build houses or to buy houses. They're taking loans by you to buy cars, etc. And I look in the newspaper and I see every hand while there's a big promotion to buy cars. The car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, it depreciates. The banking industry is willing to invest into people getting forms of transport that is going to decrease in value, no matter how you look at it. Even sitting on the lot there, once age starts to work on it, it depreciates. But education is an investment. And that's why I'm asking the banking institutions to also look at ways where they can help cater towards these type of programs. It doesn't have to be this program, but there might be other programs. This might be a spark that lights the fire of different programs that can be put into place so that others can go, maybe not in aviation, but in maritime industry or whatever. We need to look for constructive ways, especially, and when you mentioned about black and brown, this is the year that here in the kingdom, they're looking to make restitutions for what went down during slavery time. This is the year that we're celebrating Emancipation Year. Let's not celebrate with mouth alone. Let's celebrate with action and get behind the youngsters of these islands. Let's get behind them and push them and give them the opportunity to be the men and women of tomorrow that we would appreciate and would like them to be. Don't only sit down and criticize the youth when they're not performing to our, expectations, but give them also the opportunity to shine.
Mr. Baker, I was thinking about the airlines, and I mentioned one in the U.S., which is a big company. Well, we have Winair. Look, Winair is my favorite airline. I love that airline. As I said to you earlier, I think, and this is my opinion now, that even Winair should make some contributions in helping youngsters become pilots, because we have Sabre Station and St. Martin. Winair flies out of St. Martin to Sabre and Station. The only commercial airline, I think so far, I don't know, for Sabre actually, for sure, because of the runway. Maybe I'm asking too much here, but they can look into it, and if you get some assistance from Winair to go to this flight school, Winair can say, well, you will have to give us back 5-6 years service to the airline.
I agree. I agree partly with what you're saying, but we also have to look at we have to look at things realistically. How much can Winair contribute? Can we put too much load on Winair by itself? And that's why I'm looking at this as from a holistic standpoint.
But I said partial. I said partial. The reason why I say that too is because Winair is the one that really going to need pilots. As you said earlier, they had to look for pilots all over the world.
Correct.
So if we can produce them from here, at the same time you contribute a little bit to them, nothing wrong with that.
Yes, I agree to, like I said, I agree to some extent, because in putting together this program, I had to do a lot of research, and you have to understand how the economic climate is, what's going on with certain companies. My sons work there, but I don't know the in and out working of the company. But as someone who's in a managerial position and my job, and who know a little bit about the aviation industry, we have to also realize that Winair had 2 massive hits with the hurricane and then after COVID. And they're busy right now, let's say, putting their best foot forward to have a
Mr. Baker,
foothold.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but hold it there. I don't want you to defend Winair.
Yeah.
I could understand, but let me tell you, I'm fully aware of the financial struggles of Winair.
Correct.
But at the same time, I think if everyone want to contribute, I think Winair can also do their small little part, because
Correct.
ultimately we need pilots, and they're the ones who will benefit more from it. But having said that, I don't want to stick too much on that.
No.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is what my program or the program that we're setting together is, banks lend money, but they want a certain guarantee, all right? And that's what I'm saying. Maybe Winair can't help financially, but maybe Winair could say, okay, listen, we are willing to have some type of cooperation, or we can maybe give a letter of guarantee, or that person would be able to come to get a job, or that we would consider this person to get a job, because then it would be easier for that person to get a loan, etc., etc. And why I'm careful in saying anything, because we have already approached Winair, and we have not gotten the chance to sit down and speak to them about anything as yet. And it would not be prudent, and it would not be right for me to say what Winair should or shouldn't give. And that's why I'm saying, from an outsider's point of view, is not just Winair. We have approached, I've sent mails out to every airline that is based here on St. Martin, the local airlines. I've sent out to every one of them, and we're looking for the cooperation of everyone in the way that they can, because at the end of the day, Winair still needs to be financially viable for the company to even be able to hire people.
Now, Winair is owned by St. Martin and the Dutch government, a small percentage by the Dutch
Correct.
government. Right? Have you spoken with the government of St. Martin? And
I have sent letters to, or we have sent emails and to ask for sit-downs with the prudent or the ministers involved. And yeah, we're still waiting, because this is the emails were recently sent out, so we are waiting to get contacted back from them. But it's not only the government on St. Martin that we sent out emails, etc. to. We also did it with Sabre. We have sat down with Sabre. We did it to St. Eustatius, and we're still waiting to set up that part of it so that we can have sit-downs with everyone involved. And also St. Kitts Nevis, we sent out to the government there so that we can have a sit-down and then see what we can put together, that they can get, the students, the youth would get the best package that we can give to them from all sides.
Is there a minimum age requirement to enter the school?
Really, there's not a minimum age, but we have 17. Why? Because my son started, one of my sons started when he was 16. But we have a very close family friend in Canada who signed as a guardian for my son. So in the region of Ontario, once you're 17, you don't need anyone to sign as a guardian for you. Okay. But under 17, you would need that. And the requirements, let me just go into that so that you can have all the requirements. The requirements is a high school diploma. So a high school diploma would be either a MAVO or HAVO diploma or the equivalent to that, or it can be 6 CXC subjects. At least 17 years old, proof of scholarship, or proof, when I say proof of scholarship, that means to say, okay, you, the government is going to help you, right. Or proof of financing. My proof of financing, and we went to Postpac Bank at that time, and I mortgaged one of my apartments for that, and just the letter from the bank to stating that they have they're going to grant me that mortgage for the school, that was enough for me to send up to get the whole visa process started, etc. And that was one of the things. Aviation medical. That was something that that's also a requirement, but that was something that we went Canada and we was running all over the place to get done. And we have a physician and a facility here on the island, on St. Martin, that can do the aviation medical for Transport Canada, which is the civil aviation authority in Canada. So that is something that they can do here on St. Martin.
So that doctor's recognized by that agency?
Yes. And I don't know if you know or you are aware of this, but this is from back in the day when I used to have a lot of pilots from Canada. And if you're flying here with a Canadian license, you need to have your Canadian medical. So that was that. And then a medical insurance, because if something happens to the child or the youngster up there, they need to be able to go to a medical insurance. And that's easy because you can, there's sites. I did it for my sons also, that roughly $900 to $1,000, you can get an insurance for roughly about $150,000 coverage per year.
So Baker, we're running all the time. We only have about 2 minutes, so I'll just let you know we're short on time. Is there anything else you would need to add on the requirement part?
From the requirement part, that's it. And it's just the person must be willing to study. Yeah. And I'm going to, for the radio listeners and YouTube and Facebook watchers and also TV watchers, I'm going to leave some of my business cards here at the office.
Okay.
And you go to the site, go down to, the site is spectrumairways.ca. Go down to Caribbean students. There's a registration form on that page. As soon as you fill it out and send it in, it's cost-free. I see it, and I would respond to you within 2 times 24 hours, and we can get the ball rolling. Let me know if you have any questions. Once I answer from you, you would automatically see my email address. On the site has also my WhatsApp number. You can call me at that number and ask any questions and get them answered.
Give me that site again.
It is spectrumairways.ca. spectrumairways.ca or www.spectrumairways.ca.
And that's all the information they need to contact you and everything.
Correct.
All right. So I want to thank you, Mr. Baker. Really appreciate it, and continued success to your 2 sons and flying.
Yes, thank you.
And hope we'll see you back sometime soon, all right?
Yes, I will. Yes, thank you.
All right, so that's it for now. See you next time right here on Earl Gibbs Live on Hot 99.9 FM radio, Facebook, and YouTube. Take care. Bye.